Good evening, folks, and welcome to another episode of Chasing Spirits Paranormal. My name is Henry. I'm your host, along with Jeff, Paige, and we have a special guest with us, James. Paige, tell us what this drink is tonight.
We're using Ashton Creek's Sweet Summertime, which is a red blend that's made to be chilled. It's just a good red with the summer.
It is delicious.
Like a good slushy.
Yes.
I think they use it in their slushy.
Unbelievable. So how are you, James?
I'm doing well, and you guys tonight are doing good, I hope?
Yep, pretty good. Can't complain.
Just
except for the rain.
Technical. Oh, yeah, the rain for the past month.
Yeah, we've had a lot of rain and bad storms the last few nights, that's for sure.
I blame the crop circles.
Oh, you blame the crop circles? Okay.
It's gotta be. Think about it.
Oh.
Why don't you tell us about that first, Paige?
Oh. Crop circles?
Well, let's go into, what you showed me in the past few days.
There's been some very interesting crop circle formations lately. There's the last one that I saw was the moon, the triple goddess. It was the crescent moons, the waxing, the full, and the waning moons. Also a spider, and then there's a Celtic knot. All these things had some symbolism, which we'll go into next week because that's another rabbit hole.
Oh, that's right. The Oddities Convention.
What? That's the 9th.
What's next week?
Nothing. I said next week we'll go to crop circles.
Oh, okay.
Henry!
Straight over my head, girl.
Yanni's not to August.
I know.
We have the first weekend of August, the 2nd. I have a Renaissance fair that you're more than welcome to go to. And then the next weekend is the Oddity.
Okay, meanwhile, we have a guest here.
Well, James he's known me for many, many years. And he knows I'm different. Don't you?
Yeah.
That's the way to put it.
No argument from this end.
I'm quite unique.
That's why we have you.
I know. I'm also fun at parties. Okay. What I really wanted to talk to you guys about tonight is something that James and I have talked about for countless times. We've discussed ghosts for years and years and years. We actually talked about them today. Well, anyway, to make a long story short.
Hold on. What's going on? Okay, that's fine. That's okay. Got him up here.
Okay. Was spectral haunted railroads. James, so what do you think about that?
Well, again, railroads play a very vital part. It's one of those things that we see every day, but we don't really think about. A lot of times we cross when we go to work. We probably cross them going on vacation, different places, and it's the amount of material that crosses on that railroad. A lot of our grain, for instance, travels still by bulk on the railroad. And, of course, the one, commodity everybody thinks about is coal. That's moved tremendous amounts on the railroad. But there's also a lot of chemicals that are moved on the railroad every day we just don't think about. So the rails play a significant role in basically our economy and moving that product sometimes to ports and so forth. But like I said, we just don't tend to think about it. They also played a significant role in us going west and basically developing the West and its economy. But with that advancement also came tragedy, because just like any industry was young, it basically had accidents. And a lot of these accidents have led to a lot of old legends, as well as also encounters that people have had along the rails. So that's what we're going to be talking tonight, a little bit about, basically haunted rails, train museums, and train cars.
Actually, here in Richmond, we have a ghostly train.
In Churchill.
Churchill, yeah.
Yep, and it has the that's where the legend of our Richmond vampire comes from.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Remember the you probably know about the they're basically just the workers putting down the track, right?
Yeah.
And then the whole town collapsed on them, and they couldn't get to them, so they kind of plugged it up and just put like a gate on it and a memorial for them.
Wow. That's awful.
Yep.
Go ahead, James. Why don't you share with us about what you were talking about?
Go to an angle.
We gotta get these two boys situated.
And he's got the biggest man spread.
It's not because of his junk, okay?
Good thing you don't.
Oh, no. I mean, if I did. No,
Yeah, it would be ugly.
that would be. Instead of the cheap.
Still are. So anyway, Gene.
Continue,
All right,
please.
so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to Hawaii.
Yay!
And my Hawaii, like I was saying, is not always the best, so bear with me. If I mispronounce something, just give me. I'll try my best here. But we're going to go back to April Fool's Day of 1946. And we're into a place called Lapa Hoho, Hawaii. And this was a very small town in the northeastern peninsula of the big island of Hawaii. Okay? Now, just keep in mind, this is right very soon after the Second World War has ended. So, just kind of set the tone. Okay? And it's a very small town, and along this town runs a train that runs along the edge of the shore. Now, one of the key crops that was main industry at that time was sugarcane. It would come off the fields of Hilo down to the shore to be loaded onto ships. But the way it would be moved was through rail. This particular rail was what we call a narrow gauge, meaning that the gauge is the distance between the rail. Well, this particular rail was a very narrow, smaller gauge. These were typically built for one particular industry. It's like you had trains built for logging, you had trains built for mining. This one is built for to move the sugarcane. So they're a little smaller engines, more catered so they can move in and out around curves, and it made them ideal to move along the shoreline of this small area. Now, that afternoon, tragically, the wave would come in, and it would really be a series of waves, and it would kill 160 people. And we would see bridges, trestles, tracks, and even an engine were going to be swept away on their sides. And the entire railroad industry in that area is going to be wiped out very, very quickly by these tsunamis. Okay? And it's going to wipe out the industry, and sadly, the industry would never recover. That was really the end of the rail industry in that area. Now, years later, to commemorate that tragedy, we're going to have an initiative to build a museum. So what they did is they took one of the conductor's old homes, and they're going to basically make it into a museum. And they built a museum there, and basically, wasn't too long after that, the visitors and the staff would often, report hearing footsteps and oddly old-time 1940s music. We're talking like, Benny Goodman, okay, Dorsey, old 40s type music playing. But here's what was strange. The museum did not have any type of speakers or music that had been piped in. Okay? So they would start documenting paranormal activity, and they were collecting copies of pictures that the guests would try to show them over and over. And this is what they found. The train conductor's office, which was the base of the museum, part of it too, was one of the most haunted locations. One picture that a person took there showed a man in a conductor's uniform, but it was very accurate, very neat, very much authentic. Basically, they caught mist hovering near a piano that's in the museum on display. It went all the way to the ceiling. Another one, and I found this to be fascinating, a visitor snapped a picture of a couch. And on that couch, we see a group of railroad workers in their old-time uniforms taking a break. And, there was no one there at the time on that couch. Okay? So there's a caboose in the museum, and it's on display, and you sometimes will see images of railroad workers of long ago near that caboose. Now, keep in mind that many of these pictures at this museum were taken before double exposure techniques were developed. This has been going on for decades. And a lot of people will still report getting oddities in their pictures at this museum. So it still continues to this day. And that's our first story about a tragedy in a train museum in Hawaii near the Lapahoho town that was sadly destroyed in 1947.
Yeah, what I was going to say is it's just, that's common sense. You don't build a train track right near the edge of the ocean. I mean, what were they thinking?
Not close.
Well, that's a good point. Now, here's something to think about, too. Where do you see most railroad tracks here in Virginia? Well, you see them running along rivers.
Yeah.
And the reason you see them running along rivers is they need flat terrain. Trains cannot take very high grade. And what is grade? Grade is elevation. They do not do well with elevation. In fact, we measure grade when we have to do it so that we don't really go very, high elevation. We have to stretch it over distance. If you think about how much track runs along the James River, for example, it's miles and miles. I remember canoeing the river several times, and right to my left as I was leaving, like, say, Maidens Point or others, it's off to my left. And this is train running very near the water. So they would tend to run these near water so that they didn't have to fight and try to correct for grade. It was done for cost-saving strategy, but it was not a wise decision. I would agree with you. Because what happens to rivers when you get a lot of, water? They tend to flood. And, of course, Hawaii is prone to tsunamis.
Oh, yeah.
So that's just one of the problems with having tracks so close to the ocean or, in our case, near the rivers.
Yeah, that the earth in Hawaii, that's got to be really damp to where you can't really, I guess, make a train track in there. I mean,
You got all that, Bob?
Yeah, it's a really soft, and this is probably one reason it wasn't rebuilt, because they realized that if it can happen once, tragically, it can happen again.
yeah.
And it's just not a good place. And plus, they could move probably more safer inland with trucks, and trucks slowly really replace the trains at that point. Anyway.
Yeah. Which island was that?
That was the main island.
Not Maui then.
Yeah.
Maui's just like, I think it's like the second biggest one. I think.
How long has it been since you've been to Hawaii?
Many moons ago. Many moons.
So therefore, I'm not going to rely on your memory.
Well, if you do go that way and you happen to go by the museum, take your camera, because you might be interested to see what you get when you take those photos.
Mm-hmm.
Well, today, like when you and I were talking about ghosts, they don't have a concept. The time difference between them and us is completely different.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The concept of time is if they even have one.
Yeah, it's like when you were saying those workmen were actually sitting on the couch taking a break.
Right.
I wonder if they even know they're dead.
Is it a residual haunt that we're seeing? Or is it, we, a friend of mine has often talked about the difference in time when you move away from gravity itself your time changes. The movie Interstellar was a great movie that showed this. You know, you could be out in space for what you feel is a year, but several years have passed here on Earth. So we have to wonder, what is their time frame compared to ours? You know, could 100 years to them be, you know, at least for us, would be a day for them. It's hard to say, but it's just a concept that makes you scratch your head and wonder, what is the time differential? But as you move away from us, Earth itself, then you're in a different measure of time. And that's really what the movie Interstellar was talking about. How weeks out there could be, you know, potentially years here. But to them, it only feels like I've been gone a few weeks.
Right.
So a lot of people don't realize that. And as probes move away into deeper space, their internal clock has to often be adjusted because their time and our time become different. Slightly. It's ever so slightly.
Right.
But as you move further and further and further out, that time differential starts to gain. And that has to be compensated. So that's just something that we have noticed over the years with deep space probes.
Time slows down, so to speak.
It changes. It does. And part of that is the gravitational mass of the Earth. The closer you get to a big object, your time is different from other time. You know, so
Didn't that happen in Planet of the Apes? Those astronauts blew up into space, and when they came back down, you know, the place was ruled by monkeys and apes.
Our ape overlords, they like bananas.
yes. Yeah, me and Henry often joke about that, about the ape overlords. But there is a scientific concept to it that is, you know, valid. It is a difference in the time differential, and that is something that is, you know, we develop more powerful engines. We go further out into space. It's going to become more prevalent, more noticeable itself within the equipment, that we will have to make modifications because the time differential will change.
I see.
All right. So I'm going to take us now to a place that I think you'll recognize, at least by name, I would imagine. And we're going to talk about a caboose that is number 1908. Okay? And this story first appeared many, many years ago in the Topeka State Journal. Okay? And it was about a caboose that had been involved in an accident. And oddly enough, this caboose would almost seemingly come to life on its own, and it would move. But now it's not hooked to an engine. So keep that in mind for a minute. So we're going to start with the workers on the Louisville and Nashville Railroad, L&N. And they first started noticing one day that the caboose, 1908, was a little weird. Witnesses would also report that it was shaking chimney when they stepped into the caboose, while it was, you know, supposed to be stopped, physically sitting on the track. Sometimes it would lurch forward, even when it's alone, again, sitting on the track, not hooked to an engine. Okay? Now, here's a place you may recognize. One day, the caboose is sitting on a side track in a place called Richmond, Virginia. Workers were working out there, and they observed the caboose with lurch into operation. And it began to roll ever so slowly, gaining momentum down the track, and even went up a slight hill. It gained enough momentum. Then it ran off an embankment and came to rest in a nearby field. The men were stunned because, again, this was not hooked to an engine. So when the men got to the caboose, they were shocked because all of the brakes on the caboose were set, which means it shouldn't have been able to move at all. So workers began to ask questions, and they wanted to know what's the story with 1908, because 1908 is getting Well, we found out that years before, a freight train, old caboose 1908, and they ran over a man outside of Lexington.
Ooh.
And years later, after that, 1908 had been pulled slowly over a location called Russell Cave Pike. It was the exact site of that accident when the man was finally ran over. And when the police got there, it began to stop violently and began to sink and quiver. This went on a few seconds until the train began forward motion again. So, basically the lanterns and lamps basically danced around in the side of the car as if they were being hit. But there was no breeze, there was nothing. They never could understand what caused it. As the caboose moved forward and the train gained momentum, they heard a scream from underneath the caboose.
Mm.
Workers were very unsettled about this. And for many years, many workers in Richmond and other places that had that caboose refused to travel on that caboose. Keep in mind, cabooses were where your crew would often sleep and stay as the train was going to its location. So this was like their portable hotel, if you will. Often had a stove in it, place to eat, and bunks. So workers just refused to stay in that caboose. And later the caboose was pulled out of service and scrapped. And that's really where we lost track of where that particular caboose went. But I thought that was very odd because of the location it took place.
Yeah.
And that was here in Richmond, Virginia.
So,
Richmond has a lot of history, a lot of ghosts.
Mm-hmm. It does. It does. And keep in mind, does anybody know the year our train station here in Richmond was built? It was built in 1919. It was a 58-acre tract. Given to basically Richmond, it was part of Colonel John Mayo II 600-acre estate.
Hmm.
During the Civil War, there was Confederate encampment during there. And what made it so neat, this little train station, if we go back, it's built on Richmond, Fredericksburg, it's on the railroad. But what made it neat, it had a track system designed by Harry Fraser. He was the chief engineer, and they used elevation to slow incoming trains to help slow them down. The second, the innovation, it had an easy turn in a circle. Instead of having to back up the train,
Okay.
you had the ability to turn a circle. Okay. And elevation, when it was going down, had momentum for the train to pick up speed. Okay. So the first train pulled out January 6, 1919. April of 1943, over 33,000 passengers had already passed through the station. In May 1971, Amtrak takes over for passenger trains. In 1975, November, Amtrak is going to move out. And the last train left on November 15, 1975 at 4:58 a.m. In 1976, in March, the museum is sold to Virginia. And in 1977, it becomes the Science Museum.
Science Museum too.
I love the Main Street Station. It's a beautiful building.
Yes, it is. Beautiful building. It was built kind of neat in a way. It was built by a New York architect called John Pope. He built several other famous buildings. And
Yeah.
he was well known at the time. So that's why it has that kind of neat layer, rotunda, and all of that. So,
Yeah. They're
right.
right.
That's
Right.
right.
New York.
Want to go is
Like New
we're
York.
going to go to what's called Pullman cars.
Pullman cars.
Pullman cars were some of the most fancy cars on the railroad. ever go to the railroad museum, typically you'll find at least one Pullman car. And if you see a very long one, those were what we call the Pullman sleepers. And this particular car ran in Union Station in Washington, D.C. and Northern Virginia. And it had a special name. It was called Egypt.
Okay.
Very first car. We're going to go back to 1889, autumn. And it's used to take a group of passengers due to a scarcity of cars. They went ahead and used this particular car, Egypt. And section 13 of that car, sleeping berth, was empty. And there is a gentleman who is working on the train. His last name is Porter. And he's going to be tending to that particular car. Okay. Each car tended to have someone that was attending to the car. And he was sleeping as the train pulled out. Nothing happened. It was a very quiet night. The train was going down the track. And he was during that sleep, he woke by service bell. He would ring a bell by pulling a string. And it would tell the attendant that you needed some kind of service. Well, the bell goes off, and he notices it's cabin 13. So he said, well, maybe it's something that went wrong with the cabin. So he went down to 13, looked at it, but he couldn't see. There's nobody there. Okay. So he said, well, maybe it was just, the vibration. Anyway, so he goes back to the smoking room, which they did have smoking rooms in these parts of the basically, he begins to smoke. And he didn't really think anything about it. Stretches out. However, it train begins to stop. And it arouses Porter again. So he enters the main hallway, trying to figure out, look out the window. Why has the train stopped? Well, he notices when he gets into the main hallway, a woman in her night robe right in front of cabin 13. Her back was to him, and she was bent over as if she's looking for something on the floor. So he approached her. He thought, well, she must be too far again, and maybe she's lost and she's looking for something. Well, he walks toward the corner near the coach door and vanishes right before Porter got within speaking distance. He just leaves that. Wait a minute. So he enters the next car and asks that car's attendant, which was named Sandy Gold, who was standing next to him. He said, okay, why are you allowing women to enter another car at this time of night? Well, he finds out that particular car, that attendant had all men in that Pullman sleeping car. There were no women.
Interesting.
The only women on the train were in the car in front, in cabin number 2, and he found out this sounds great.
So we have a mystery lady.
Very strange. And so after confirming, obviously, he wasn't from Sandy's car, he returned to his car and searched in the end. He turned his attention then to Sandy's shoes that he couldn't figure out, and he just kind of dismissed it as maybe it was just weird. So he's just kind of sitting there staring at his shoes, thinking about all this, when he hears a woman's voice again. He looked up and saw a woman in a night robe standing in the door of the smoking room. It was odd. He spoke in a very, very, very soft voice. And she said, I rang for her. She was running her fingers through her black hair, which ran along down her back. But she was staring out the window above the Porter as she spoke. Her eyes never really hitting him as she spoke. There was also a strange odor, a sickening odor, that filled the room, and her eyes, he noticed, were very pale. So he said, what can I do for you, ma'am? She let told me he had fallen on a hit, but he had not. He was in cabin 13 when the king said, "Come help me, sir." He then vanished down the hallway. He was in the hallway. Well, he fainted. He did not follow. He plain fainted. When he woke up, he was in a large hospital with very high fever. The nurse went to the room and informed him he had been brought in 2 weeks prior. He was raised with a brain fever. He had partially recovered and was released. A few months later, oddly enough, he recovered and he's sitting in a barbershop chair among other rail personnel.
Oh, Jeff, hold on. Jeff,
Okay?
Oh, no.
hold on. Jeff,
Okay.
hey, baby.
Everybody good?
No,
No.
No?
need to get on the floor.
Get him on the floor.
Need your help in doing this, of course.
Let me stand up.
It's like a seizure.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hold on. You want to take the hospital? You finished. You know you're finished.
Okay, guys?
Yeah, Jeff had a seizure.
We think.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Can we resume later? I gotta take your
Yes.
phone.
Yes, you go ahead and just call me back if you want to resume, and you guys take care of that because health comes first.
All right, thanks, James.
I'll call you
Okay,
later.
talk to you later. Bye-bye.